Alright, let's get down to it. Now, this is the Game Boy. For those of you who are already familiar with Maya, I am basically showing everybody shading and lighting. They give you the already made modeled Game Boy. It's your job to projection texture the entire thing. So that means bump mapping, textures, stuff like that. All the images and all the files are already given to you. It's just your job to place them. And upon rendering, it will look like a completed project. So this is basically what it looks like. Now this is the finished one that I had, with all the projections already laid out and the bump mapping and stuff. You start from scratch. Now I'll just do an IPR render just to show you. Shazam! Hopefully you can see that and it's still on the screen. Yeah, so like the finished product, look at A, B buttons, power button, Nintendo symbol, all that. Now I know some of you gamer guys were going to be like, well, hey, wait a minute, you can't play Mario 64 on the Game Boy Advance. Well, you're right, you can't. But that's the image that they provide you, either that or a couple of others, but I chose Mario because Mario is pretty cool. So that is the Game Boy. Okay, this is the taxi cab. Now the taxi cab was probably one of the most difficult and long tutorials in the class. Anybody who's already taken a class can probably vouch for that. This bastard is long, mainly because it's teaching you environment spheres and things like that. An environment sphere is basically bringing an image into Photoshop and basically creating a box or a sphere, if you will, and wrapping it around your entire environment. And basically it resembles an environment. But, however, you also have to put that same environment texture onto everything that is chrome or reflective on your taxi. So it looks almost like the environment is actually reflecting off of the taxi itself. Here, you could obviously see the environment in the background. This is what the taxi, well, looks like when you're pretty much finished with it. Let me do an IPR render, I could tell. This is going to take a minute. Great. Okay, good. Now, you could see, obviously, the taxi symbols and the signs on the top, the taxi signage, I guess you can call it, all that is projection. All these tutorials build off of each other, so if you're learning projection in the one previous, you're going to probably use it in the one forward. Rubber, glass, metal, you'll learn all that when you take the class. Anyway, you can kind of see, I can't really, I don't know if I could maybe zoom in here, but you can kind of see the resemblance of the environment through the chrome. So that's pretty much what they were getting at. The environment sphere took forever, and it kind of sucked. Honestly, this project, it looks nice, but it sucked. Okay, so basically once you get to the end of the tutorials, the very last tutorial is called the day and night scene. Once you get familiar with depth map shadows, ray tracing shadows, textures, texturing nodes, and all the different types of shading elements, they basically hand you a room and they say we want it rendered in both a day and a night scene. You also are required to import certain objects and also texture them. Let me do an IPR and I'll show you real quick what it looks like. If you're looking in the outside of the window, that's actually an image plane. You could use any image plane you want, just as long as it's freaking daytime. The bed and such, the bed was actually textured with wood already, and I used that same texture over here on the desk. The guitar and such. Now, I actually went into detail. If you were able to see my shading nodes inside of Maya for that, even the strings has twine, like a strung metal texture. So like it kind of goes above and beyond. You don't really need to do that, considering the fact that you won't even be able to see the texture on the strings from the distance of the camera, but you pretty much get the idea. The full sail pillow, I added that. It's a projection, stuff like that. Honestly, the day scene was my least favorite out of all of them. Let's see if I can, no. But I will load the night scene now and I'll show you the night scene. Oh wow, that's excellent. I love how the image plane is not showing. Even though farts. See what I'm talking about? And now I forgot which one I used because it was like a month ago. Ah. Now, if I was actually rendering this without using IPR and actually using a decent render, it would take forever because it was actually rendered in HD 720, and it would take forever. So, luckily enough, IPR will do just fine for this video. Same textures. The only difference with this one is you have to fool around with the light to make it like nighttime. Obviously, if I really wanted to get detailed with this, the light that's right outside of the directional light that's right outside of the window that's resembling moonlight, I could actually attach what's called a cookie to it, and the cookie can actually, if I import that same image into the light of the tree, it would actually shine down and look like branches. So it would look like almost like moonlight shining through branches, and the branches projecting themselves onto the carpet. I was kind of pressed for time, so I didn't really get a chance to do that. But the translucency and the transparency on the lamps rather has to be right. They look for that type of stuff, and the bump mapping on the walls. Obviously, if you look really close, even though it's an IPR render, especially over here in the corner, you can kind of see the bump map. And on the ceiling. Actually, what I'm going to show you now is the final, and how the final is actually handled. This is the final project. Now, it looks like a mess, believe me, I know. But let's not go there first. Let's actually do this. Let me show you what the actual scene originally looked like. Okay, this is the original scene. Now, if you can't really see what it is, okay, it's a school classroom. You got a chalkboard up here on the wall, a flag, a broken window with blinds hanging down, chairs knocked all over the place. It looks like a bomb went off here, like post-apocalyptic nightmare. Okay, and now this, they wanted to be transformed into something that was lighthearted with anticipation. Okay, with vibrant colors like a Las Vegas neon sign. Now, obviously, a Las Vegas neon sign, not exactly, but 1950s advertising style, kind of obvious, okay? Like, 1950s, you see a lot of, pastel colors and such like that. So pretty much, this is what I went for, okay? Now, I gutted the entire thing. I said, okay, fine. Now, I was like, okay, 1950s. Now, I had about maybe 30, 35 reference images that I was kind of going for to check, colors, textures, even advertising for the 1950s, the time of the decade it was, such like that. So I did my homework, but I decided to gut the entire thing. I said, well, a school classroom, making it lighthearted is going to be pretty hard. So what I did was I gutted the entire scene and I made it into a diner, a 1950s diner. Basically, I made the classroom part almost like a party room, kind of like where somebody would host like a birthday party or maybe like a graduation. And I basically laid down the top floor. Obviously bump mapped it, threw some translucent dirt on it, made it look like there was a party, threw a congratulations banner along the back here, took out the chalkboard, put an image plane behind it of a diner, so it actually looks like it's part of a diner, threw some glow lights up at the top here and make it look like fluorescent, and the colors are all rendered in pastel like it's the 1950s. The bump mapping could have been a little bit better on the walls. The time of day is about sundown, so it looks about 8:30, and it is summertime, and this is what you get for the final project, okay? I got a 79 on this. I don't know what they look for as far as grades. I know they look at complex shading nodes and such, but I had switch nodes, I had bump maps up the ass, and just for creativity alone, for gutting this entire project, I think deserves something better than a 79. Bottom line, this is the final project. This is what everybody's going to get. They're going to assign you a mood and a scene, and it's your job to make it happen. And that was SAL in a nutshell. All right, so that's basically college mathematics and SAL in a nutshell.
Shit,
right
like
now, I'm doing principles of design, which is very much like objects perspective, so it's a traditional art class, and I'm also doing historical archetypes and mythology, which is studying your typical hero cycle and also stories of mythology and stuff like that. Pretty easy month so far, a lot of reading with mythology, but for the most part, it's pretty good. So that's pretty much this episode of Full Sail X.
This cat says to study hard and hit the books and all that good stuff. F that, dude. Go out, party, and have a good time, man. Who cares if you get D's? D's are good. D's passing.